Welcome to the pick 3 of Is Your Ex Still Thinking About You? You know, most of us have exes, and if you have more than one, I'd like you to take a moment to just pause and think of one of them, okay? Put one of them in the forefront of your mind. And maybe you'll pick like one that you didn't have good closure on. Maybe you'll pick one that it was a little troubling, or that you still occasionally it bothers you. There's a trigger or something, and or whatever one you decide will be the right one. That's your first decision, is to choose an ex. And the second decision is which one of these piles are you most drawn to. These are 3 different decks. So pick which pile that you are most drawn to, and then we shall begin. So, if you chose this pile, we're going to start with you right now. Is your ex still thinking about you? Oh my gosh, look at this. This is the Lover's card. Wow. So when you had it going on, you had it going on. This was a hot love. And then through the relationship, there was an emptiness. Someone had an empty feeling, and it just wasn't right. It just wasn't working for them anymore. Like, it started out very passionate, very hot, everything in common, no one could do anything wrong, and soon you were empty. There was an empty feeling in your heart, and you also felt alone. This is a card about being alone. And so this would be your ex definitely thinking about you, peeking in the window. Doesn't mean actually they're peeking in your window as a physical event, but you can see them peering in, which means they are looking in their mind at the thoughts around you. So the answer to your question, are they thinking about you? The answer to this would be yes, because that card showed up, and they are still wondering. Now, they also might have found themselves alone for a period of time. So they left, the relationship broke up, and they spent a period of time by themselves, navigating their own life alone. This also might be you wondering, will I ever find someone again? This could have been a really tragic situation in your life, depending on how much attachment and how long the relationship was. Look at this. There is still some troubles. There's still some troubles on this. There were things about this breakup that you're still not wanting to face. This is the 2 of Swords. There's a veil over the eyes. So it is time to take the veil off and see the relationship for the truth that it was. Admit that you were madly in love in the beginning, and then an emptiness came over. This happens. People move on. It's just time to move on. And the items that you don't want to face, it could be that it wasn't fair. It just wasn't fair. And we have the Sun card, where there was the planets were influencing one of you. So one of you was moving into a planetary alignment that was also shifting your perception on the relationship. And there was also, could have been another outside person influencing it. So that just means that maybe you went to some friends, or they went to some friends, and the friends are like, this might not be in your best interest to continue this. So there was an outside influence. And here you are. And this is like, okay, now I'm pissed off. Look at this look. Now you've pissed me off. So there's anger, and there's like, I needed things to happen and they weren't there. And then we finally have to admit that this did hurt. As tough as what you were, this hurt, okay? And so you can just allow yourself to feel that woundedness, to feel that feeling of abandonment, or that your hopes and dreams didn't come out like you thought they would. And the last card for you is, this ex every so often does think back and wonder if things would have been different, if they could have done things differently, that now they're in a different space. and they're just, they've carved out a different life for themselves, but they still think back and wonder what would have happened if I would have acted differently, or the circumstances would have changed. So right now the relationship is what it is, which they are an ex, and there's could be some anger issues that you need to heal from, and admit that there was grief. It isn't right or wrong, or he did this or she did that. We can move on from blame, and we can admit that we were hurt, we were angry, but let's move on. Let's carve out a new life for ourselves. And that is your reading for those who selected deck number 1. And then we have deck number 2. And this is going to be if your ex is still pondering you. Gosh, we don't have to go too far into this deck to see that there's a pondering, that there's definitely a pondering going on, sitting in the chair and oblivious to what's going on around them. So there's moments when the ex is sitting in a time of quietness, just pondering the relationship. And also there was a feeling of kind of betrayal. This ex, there's an energy of betrayal. So the betrayal can come in many forms. It could be, one of the forms is cheating, but one of the forms is simply not being there for the person, just being away a lot. So it's just a feeling that you weren't everything. That, see how it's facing away? She's facing away, like somebody was facing away and not paying attention. And this is what your ex is thinking, that they had hopes too, that the relationship would be young and that you would grow old together. There's an old couple on a bench here, and it feels like they thought that you would grow old together. So they were equally, at the end of the day, disappointed that this had to go the way it is. And then look at here, we've got 7 of Cups. So it looks like what tore you apart in the end is also, these are all astrological symbols. So it's almost like your signs, your astrology signs, could not get along. And that, maybe things should have been taken at a slower pace. So it could be that this was just hot, heavy, go, you're going to be my soulmate, and it should have been slowed down and things should have been talked over. As to what your core values are. This can talk about your core values. So if this person, you were so impressed by them, but if your core values didn't match up, or you can really get along with all of the astrology signs. However, some are more challenging than others, and this just played a role in it. It doesn't mean it was the entire cause of it. She's got a huge sword, which that means the weapon that she used in this relationship, or was used in this relationship, was the words. There were harsh words spoken. Those can't be taken back. And the ex had a certain amount of stubbornness. So both people might have had harsh words, but one person was stubborn. They wouldn't give. They wouldn't budge. And therefore, there came the battles. So they're battling away. The relationship was a battle. It was a challenge. It got to the point where it was such a challenge that you decided, poof. Someone decided, whoever decided, the relationship, poof, went up in smoke, gone. One person had to make the decision that this was not going to work. So there was a lot of battle energy, a lot of stubbornness, and a lot of harsh words in this one. So absolutely, the ex is thinking about you, and they are realizing that there was a lot of challenges to being in this relationship, and maybe they are coming to terms with that they were a little bit controlling. It could be that they were controlling in that you turned your back on that and fought back, or attempted to fight back from that control. At any rate, it went up in smoke. It just literally, the relationship went up in smoke and went away. So hopefully you can get some closure, understanding. Sometimes with relationships ending and it's painfully ending, we always look at the good times and we don't always recognize some of the bad times that happen. So if you chose number 3, this is your ex thinking about you. 6 of Pentacles, this is all about the past, thinking about the past. So absolutely your ex is thinking about you. They're also maybe looking at photographs because this person is looking at some kind of a book. So your ex might even also be going through the phone, or even if they have access to your Facebook page or an Instagram account, they could have actually looked at photos of you recently, and maybe you picked up on that. They are also seeing that they were chained, or you felt that you were chained in that relationship, that you didn't have the freedom that you thought you would have. You didn't have, like, they wouldn't accept you fully for who you were in the relationship, and that made a difference. And then also, they held on to their own feelings and their stuff, like, this is mine, like possessiveness. And they could have done this with you. They could have been like, you're my property. Some relationships, there is an unhealthy clinging of almost like a jealousy to where they're treated like property, like you were treated like property that is owned rather than a human being to be loved. So at any rate, what continues on your path is that to move on and be happy. So you can move on and know, for those of you who thought of a recent ex and you're single now, you definitely are going to be meeting someone else who will be more in harmony with your values that you're going to have. So that's absolute happiness. Those of you who are watching this who have found someone else, it looks like you're actually pondering and comparing the difference in this relationship to the one of this ex. So there's a comparing of the differences going on. You're like, well, this partner doesn't do that, and this partner doesn't do this, and coming to the differences. But guess what? We have 2 happy cards. So those of you in relationships, you're headed into love, deep love. You've learned from your past relationships. And also the 4 of Wands is deep love. You are the luckiest pile because you have learned from your past mistakes through these ex, or through this ex that you thought about, and it's going to move you on to the happiest relationships that you can experience. So thank you for joining me on this.